Welcome to the Alaska Weather Show. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service on behalf of a special partnership with Alaska Public Media. It is Tuesday, July 5th, 2022. And if you have any questions, interesting observations you wish to pass along, you can reach me at peter.chan@noaa.gov. And another thing, if you'd like additional information on top of what I provide during this broadcast, you can always go to weather.gov. It is the National Weather Service's online presence. You'll come to a map of the lower 48 along with Alaska and Hawaii to the lower left, and it's a interactive point-and-click map that allows you to get forecasts, watches, warnings, and advisories, and so much more information. Quick check of the weather map across the continental U.S. this Tuesday afternoon shows heat advisories and excessive heat warnings for areas of the middle of the country, including severe thunderstorm watches through parts of Montana and across Iowa into southwest Wisconsin, northern Illinois. They're watching a derecho. That's a bow echo or a line of intense thunderstorms that could produce very damaging winds in excess of 70 miles an hour. It's heading toward the Chicago area. So, yeah, that's the kind of thing you can find if you go to that site. Well, we have red flag warnings continuing for scattered thunderstorms, lightning strikes that could cause more fires, and dense smoke advisories for areas of the central and east central interior. Those are going to continue at least through midnight Thursday night. A red flag warning has been issued for tomorrow, noon Wednesday through at least midnight Thursday night for the Copper River Basin due to very dry conditions, breezy conditions, and temperatures, very warm temperatures. We are going to see some cooler temperatures, wetter weather spread across the southwest, and then eventually eastward to along the Gulf Coast as we wrap up by the end of this week and early weekend. And overall, still looks like as we get toward mid-month, mid-July, statewide we could see a bit more of a cooler and somewhat wetter pattern. Not enough wetting rains to completely alleviate fire issues, but enough to at least dampen them. And looking at the advisory map, we can see that we have numerous red flag warnings there in red. On top of that, there are some dense smoke advisories there for the central and east central interior. So these red flag warnings include Fort Yukon Flats area, all the way to along the Alcan border, and then the Copper River Basin, including Glen Allen. That area there, very dry, and they're getting some breezy conditions with very warm temperatures tomorrow into Thursday. To the west, we still have a dense smoke advisory for the area around McGrath, and that will continue at least until midnight Thursday night. And there's some other air quality alerts for parts of the state, but we can see again there in the central interior, Esther Dome there outside of Fairbanks, smoky haze, visibility down near 2 miles at times, 73 degrees. That haze tends to slow down the development of thunderstorms until a little later in the day. Ketchikan, overcast skies. In fact, the southern part of the Panhandle did have some thunderstorms that rolled in from off the interior British Columbia earlier today and worked their way across Ketchikan on over toward Craig. Right now, they have, this afternoon, mid-afternoon, have overcast skies and 63. Quick check of the latest fire stats for this 2022 fire season. There are over 200 active fires now, nearly 220, and acreage burn now has been approaching 2.35 million acres. Quite impressive. And again, the potential for additional fire starts, those red flag warnings for lightning over the interior, areas of dense smoke impacting public health and general aviation interests. But we are going to see some cooler weather, humid conditions with some rains moving into the southwest. We'll still see some scattered thunderstorms across the interior coming up the rest of this week, and then becoming very warm, dry, and breezy there across the Copper River Basin tomorrow and Thursday. And you can see the fire danger anticipated for tomorrow, Wednesday. The highlight for extreme fire conditions there is in through portions of the Copper River Basin. Hence, that's why that red flag warning has been issued for tomorrow and Thursday. Looking at the satellite imagery, the interior does have some clearer areas, especially south of the Alaska Range, but notice the whiter kind of popcorn-like clouds there over northwest Canada, British Columbia, into parts of the east central interior. Those are developing thunderstorms. And then to the west, extensive cloud cover there through the Bering, especially notice the enhanced clouds, the eastern Bering, as a trough of low pressure is going to be working its way eastward. We anticipate that at least as we go in through the day, today, that low is going to work its way eastward tonight with a trough moving onshore with a band of rain. And the smoke continues across the interior with some scattered thunderstorms that could last into the night across parts of the central and east central interior. On Wednesday, the rains overspread the southwest into parts of the southwest interior and Alaska Range. We continue to see a thermal trough of low pressure there, northwest to Canada into portions of Alaska, which is typical with the warmer temperatures. And then on Thursday, still a thermal low there along the Alcan border with the low pressure kind of getting better organized just southwest of Kodiak Island. That's going to work its way eastward and bring more in the way of cloud cover, some rain along the Gulf Coast, and some cooler temperatures across south central areas. Lows Wednesday morning generally in the lower 50s there in the Panhandle, and generally above 50 for south central areas. Going to be warm there at Glen Allen, the Copper River Basin, lower 80s tomorrow. Cooler around the Anchorage Bowl, generally in the 60s. Still a few 70s there in parts of the inner channels there of the Panhandle. Lows again, lower 50s there in the Panhandle and generally near or just above 50 through south central. But notice temperatures will not be quite as warm Thursday, generally 60s to near 70 across south central areas. In the north, warmest readings along the Yukon River and up through the Yukon Flats, 50s to near 60. Lows near 40 along the Arctic coast and the western coast there near the Bering Strait of the Seward Peninsula. Back up into the 80s east central areas with the threat of scattered thunderstorms redeveloping in the later afternoon and evening hours. And then lows as we get into Thursday morning will still be well into the 50s to around 60 at Fairbanks up through Tok and those areas. Along the Arctic coast, lower 40s as well as along, again, the Bering Strait. And temperatures on Thursday maybe not quite as warm there in the east, but still some lower 80s along the Alcan border at Fort Yukon and Eagle. And looking at the southwest as we extend out over into the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians, temperatures will generally stay in the 40s, 50 at best. For lows, Wednesday morning lows in the 50s through the Kuskokwim, lower Yukon Valley. But with the rains and thicker cloud cover pushing into the southwest, temperatures will be confined to mainly in the 50s there through the southwest and down along the Alaska Peninsula. And then Thursday morning, we expect lows to stay generally in the 40s to near 50 degrees across the entire region. And then Thursday afternoon, with the cloud cover and occasional, mainly light rain there through the southwest interior, that'll keep temperatures mid 50s to lower 60s at best, and cooler near 50 as we go out along the Alaska Peninsula and in through the Aleutians. So let's take a look. 6 to 10 day temperature outlook by the Climate Prediction Center, July 11th through the 15th. As we approach mid-month, we expect temperatures to average a bit cooler than normal. The southeast and much of the mainland, with the exception of the southwest, near normal. And by the time we get into mid-month, July 13th through the 19th, we expect overall much of the state, including the Panhandle, to have temperatures averaging at least near to a bit below normal, certainly there centered on the Yukon Valley, extending to parts of the northern and central Panhandle. And precipitation, July 11th through the 15th, should average a bit above normal across eastern and central areas of the state. So that means additional scattered showers and thunderstorms may be possible, with just a light painting of maybe a little above normal precipitation there in the western areas of the state, as well as parts of the Panhandle. And then finally, mid-month, July 13th through the 19th, the precipitation outlook. No real strong signature for above normal precipitation, but maybe precipitation averaging a little above normal across much of the mainland and into at least the northern half of the Panhandle. And any rain would certainly be welcome at this time due to the very dry conditions statewide. And now, aviation weather around Alaska. Well, let's take a look now at your aviation weather if you have a flight planned either Wednesday or on Thursday. The main weather feature continues to be a ridge of high pressure out there over northwestern Canada, the eastern portion of the state along the Alcan border. We will still have the chance of some isolated scattered thunderstorms across the areas between the Brooks Range and the Alaska Range early Wednesday morning, but pretty isolated at that time. IFR conditions anticipated across 2/3 of the panhandle, including the inner channels there, and also along the southwest coast up through the Bering Strait and then out through the Aleutian Chain. The thunderstorms redevelop Wednesday afternoon and evening, so keep that in mind for localized, areas to watch out for. And areas of smoke, again, continuing primarily between the Alaska Range and Brooks Range, widespread IFR conditions along just off the Gulf Coast there, and also the southwest interior out through the southwest coast and much of the Bering. Low pressure that's out over the Bering will be tracking eastward eventually across the Alaska Peninsula and into the Gulf as we go through the latter half of this week and into the weekend. This is going to bring cooler temperatures to areas of the southwest and certainly along the Gulf Coast. The interior, though, will continue to see high pressure ridge kind of back build over the northern half of the state, so that'll allow warmer temperatures to persist, especially along and north of the Yukon River. Still smoke, isolated storm Thursday morning up there, especially north end of the Yukon Flats. Widespread IFR conditions, southern 2/3 of the panhandle back out across the southwest interior, southwest coast, and also up along the Arctic coast. And for Thursday afternoon, thunderstorms redevelop again between the Alaska Range and on the southern side of the Brooks Range, with areas of smoke continuing and potentially affecting visibility, especially in the vicinity of the more active wildfires. Anaktuvik Pass should generally see VFR conditions, but an isolated storm could develop in vicinity with more in the way of smoke the further south you fly. Same thing, Atigun Pass, an isolated storm could pop up afternoon or evening. VFR conditions, though, by and large, and further south, smoke you're going to encounter toward the Yukon River. Lake Clark and Merrill, MVFR conditions with smoke. West entrances and out over areas of the interior southwest. Rainy Pass, same thing. MVFR becoming VFR with smoke mainly there. West entrance and as you go further in toward the interior. Windy Pass will see a isolated storm and smoke as you get north there of the north entrance. Better conditions as you go fly south. Isabel, VFR conditions with smoke and an isolated storm possible there north entrance and flying northward. Mentasta Pass could see an isolated storm develop in vicinity Wednesday afternoon or evening with smoke and isolated storms as you fly further north. Tanita Pass, generally VFR conditions are expected. Portage Pass, it's a split. VFR on the west entrance, MVFR on the east entrance, and Chilkoot and White should generally see MVFR conditions during the day on Wednesday. Freezing levels are highest over the east side of the state along the Alcan border into northwest Canada. Beneath that dome, that ridge of warm air, freezing levels are above 10,000 feet there, especially along the Alcan border. Further west, beneath the area of low pressure, a colder pool of air aloft, 6,000 foot freezing levels there out over the western central Bering. That feature will be moving eastward, and as I mentioned, crossing the Alaska Peninsula as we get through the latter portions of this week. There is the potential, as a result of some precipitation, thicker cloud cover moving in through the southwest. 10,000 to a flight level of 20,000 feet, you could encounter some considerable moderate icing with perhaps some isolated scattered storms there through the eastern interior. You may have to dodge if you're trying to fly there, especially through portions of the interior between the Alaska Range and the Brooks Range. Upper level jet stream winds at 30,000 feet. We have 130 knot west-northwest wind max. They are just north of the central Aleutians. Low pressure circulation there out over the central Bering with 40 knot winds across the central eastern Aleutians, 60 knot wind max further south of there. And then bringing it down to 3,000 feet, we continue to see a low pressure circulation out there toward the central Bering. And strongest winds remaining there just to the southwest of the western and central Aleutians. Nevertheless, there will be the potential for some isolated moderate to considerable moderate turbulence there over portions of the central and eastern Aleutians on Wednesday between the surface and 4,000 feet. So that wraps up your flight weather. Be sure to check the latest conditions and forecasts before you head out. And I wish you a good rest of this week. And if you do manage to give out, have a safe flight.
Hello, I'm a GOES-R series weather satellite orbiting 22,000 miles above Earth. I can see a lot of cool stuff from up here, and I take pictures of it with my spiffy camera that has 16 different settings. I have such good eyesight, I can see clouds, snow, smoke, smog, and ash, so I can warn you about dangerous conditions and help you avoid them. When storms are brewing, I watch them closely and help with hurricane, tornado, and flood warnings to help keep you safe. And my lightning mapper tracks lightning strikes way up in the sky, even through dark, dense clouds. I also help with search and rescue missions. I listen for distress signals from emergency beacons and tell search and rescue teams just where to find people who need help. But even when I'm keeping a close eye on Earth, I'm monitoring weather out here in space, too. I watch the sun for big bursts of energy, which send waves of radiation toward Earth that can affect power grids, block communication with planes, cause errors in GPS, and damage satellites. Space weather is also very dangerous for astronauts working outside the International Space Station. I warn them so they can get inside where they'll be safe. So the next time you watch a weather report or check your phone for the forecast, remember, that's me. So look to the sky and wave. I'll be here. Whoa! Things are looking pretty bad down there. But don't worry. I'm going to give weather forecasters a heads up and help you stay safe. I'm a GOES-R series weather satellite, and one of my jobs is to keep an eye on Earth's weather as I orbit above. But I'm 22,000 miles above Earth. How does your local weather forecaster know what I see all the way up here? First, I have to figure out what's going on. I point my special camera at the Earth and take pictures of the clouds I see below. My pictures show where the clouds are, but I also take lots of other notes about the clouds. For example, how high they reach into the atmosphere, how much rain they might cause, and when a severe storm may be forming. But I can't keep all of this information to myself. I have to share it with weather forecasters down on Earth. A big antenna is waiting for my call. Since I'm a satellite, I send my pictures and notes in a computer language of ones and zeros. Luckily, the antenna speaks my language. Computers connected to the antenna organize my notes and combine all of the pictures and cloud information and translate them into weather maps. They send a version of the maps back up to me. I'll hold on to these for later. Another copy of the maps is split into smaller pieces. This helps the maps move faster from one place to another. The map pieces are then sent for processing before being sent back up in the sky to a communication satellite. From there, the maps are picked up by antennas at the National Weather Service forecast offices in each region. There are more than 100 offices. I also take the maps that I received and send them out to companies that specialize in making the maps more colorful and better for viewing on TVs and computers. The colorful maps and the maps from the forecast offices then go to your local weather forecaster. The forecaster combines the information from these maps with lots of other information, like model forecast data and radar data, to make predictions about the upcoming weather in your area. And that's how I help you find out if bad weather is going to ruin your afternoon plans. You're welcome. Soon it will be my time to shine. In outer space. I'm the GOES-R satellite. That stands for Geostationary Operational Environmental Satellite. And the R stands for my order in this series of weather satellites. Like my older siblings before me, I'll do a lot for watching weather, but I'm pretty special because I have a lot of new gadgets. I'm originally from Colorado, but my journey to space has a few stops along the way. I'll be shipped in a very special satellite shipping container to Kennedy Space Center. Moving me around is not easy. I'm over 18 feet wide and weigh 6,000 pounds. And then things get really exciting. I get loaded onto an Atlas V541 launch vehicle. A big rocket! Woo! After Atlas and I blast off together, my compartment separates from the launch vehicle and I continue to climb higher and higher. Then I break away completely and unfurl my solar panel and antenna. After that, I have to use my thrusters to get into just the right position, 22,000 miles above the ground and traveling 1.9 miles per second to keep up with Earth's rotation. And then I can officially start my job along with my fellow GOES sisters, where I take advanced pictures for more accurate weather forecasts, map lightning in real time, and improve the monitoring of the sun's activity. It's going to be so awesome! I can't wait!
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Well, it's time now to wrap up the show. Welcome back, and we're going to take a look at the sea ice edge to start off. Plenty of open water now has developed along the Alaskan coast of the Chukchi Sea, the Bering Strait, and now as we get into the up there on the Beaufort Sea along the Arctic coast, we're seeing the shore-fast ice breaking away in most areas now, with maybe the exception in and around Kaktovik. But as we go through the summer, we anticipate the melt-off there to continue as scheduled. And looking at the southeast panhandle, for the inner channels, winds will be southerly, 10 to 15 knots, waves a couple of feet, maybe a few feet there through Lynn Canal. Outer coast, west to northwest winds around 15 knots and waves generally 4 to 5 feet. On Thursday, southerly winds continue across the inner channels, 10 to 15 knots, waves again, a couple of feet, maybe a few feet there in Lynn Canal, and then areas along the outer coast, generally west to northwest around 10 knots and waves running a few to 4 feet. Across the northwest Gulf and up through Cook Inlet, we'll see variable winds around 10 knots off the Kenai and in Prince William Sound with waves not more than a few feet. Southeasterly winds 15 to 20 knots there at the entrance of Cook Inlet with waves 4 to 5 feet. And on Thursday, low pressure is going to be located toward the south end of Kodiak Island, so we expect easterly winds Prince William Sound with waves 3-4 feet. Northeast to east winds down the length of Cook Inlet, and they'll be strongest off the Kenai and at the entrance there of Cook Inlet, east to southeasterly 25 knots and waves maybe 7 to 8 feet. And for Kodiak Island there Wednesday, we're looking at variable winds 10 knots Shelikof Strait, otherwise southwest to west winds 15 knots there on the North Pacific side, and 15 to 20 knot south-southwest winds Bristol Bay down toward north of Cold Bay with waves 2 to 4 feet. And then on Thursday, low pressure will be centered on the south end there of Kodiak Island, and winds generally easterly there at Shelikof Strait 20 knots, but winds turn around more to the west as we go down through the length of the Alaska Peninsula, 20 to 25 knot winds, and waves as high as 8 feet on the North Pacific side, 4 to 5 feet on the Bering side. For Wednesday, the central and eastern Aleutians will see southwesterly winds 15 to 20 knots, waves 6 to 7 feet on the North Pacific side, 4 to 6 feet on the Bering side. Variable winds there west of Adak, 10 to 15 knots, waves 5 feet. And then on Thursday, winds will generally be out of the west, 15 to 20 knots from Atka eastward through the eastern Aleutians, with waves running around 5 feet on the North Pacific side and 4 to 6 feet on the Bering side. For the eastern Bering and along the southwest coast, Southwest winds 20 knots in the vicinity of St. Paul, St. George, waves 5 feet. Going up the coast, winds become variable north of Nunavik Island with waves of 4 feet, and then northeast to east winds coming off in Norton Sound and there at the lower Yukon Delta at around 10 knots and waves 2 to 3 feet. On Thursday, look for westerly winds, especially along the lower southwest coast back towards St. Paul and St. George at 15 to 20 knots, waves 4 to 6 feet. Variable winds near and west of Nunavik Island, and then easterly winds there across Norton Sound at 10 knots and waves a couple of feet. And then finally, as we go up through the Bering Strait, lower Chukchi Sea winds will be southeast to south, 15 to 20 knots, waves 3 to 4 feet. Still some ice in place, at least the shore-fast ice is breaking away there along the Arctic coast, winds rather light, generally offshore, 5 to 10 knots. And then on Thursday, look for easterly winds, 10 to 15 knots along the Arctic coast, still with some lingering ice there in place, and then down through the lower Chukchi Sea, winds will be out of the north, 10 to 15 knots with waves running around 3 feet. And a quick check of the surface weather map for Wednesday afternoon. We have low pressure coming in off the central Bering with a trough in through the southwest and cutting across the Alaska Peninsula. Upper level energy is going to help spin up a new low there just southwest of Kodiak Island. We have thermal lows back out through northwest Canada, the Yukon Territory, into east central parts of the state with some scattered thunderstorms continuing and red flag warnings, as well as dense smoke advisories for portions of the eastern and central interior. And for Thursday, low pressure will be spinning up there just to the south end of Kodiak Island. That'll bring, as it works its way eastward, some cooler temperatures and some rain along the Gulf Coast as we go into the early weekend. So that wraps it up for today's show. Join me again come tomorrow evening.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.